On today's show, the LA Clippers just lost two big ones to the LA Lakers and have one game left in our 8-game road trip before we return to Intuit Dome. Adam Ausland and I are going to talk about the state of your LA Clippers on today's Locked On Clippers.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. You were locking in with the Clips. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers the first listen of your day, your team every day. I'm your host, Darian Vaziri, born and raised in LA and been a Clipper fan for 20 years. Been covering the Clippers for 5 years on my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, and 3 years here on Locked On Clippers. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and of course on YouTube. Hit the notification bells, every single time we post a video. And of course, the Locked On Clippers newsletter at lockedondaily.com. Now, this episode is going to be talking about the state of the Clippers. My man, Adam Ausland, our Clipper radio host, and the only person that makes more Clipper content than me these days. Adam, thank you for taking your time to come out and talk Clips as usual.
Thank you, bro. Appreciate the love. Day 152, 152 days straight of Clippers talk I'll have for you at some point later.
Wow. So, and by the way, Adam did, just so everybody knows, we usually do the back-to-back. Adam did ask about it, but I've been not featuring on pods and including my cousin. So if I did someone else's pod before I did my cousin's pod, he would get really mad at me. So I was like, we'll just do Locked On, and then we'll do something like that later on in the season, maybe towards playoff time. But let's talk about.
I want you first. After you get on your cousins, I want you directly afterwards, Darian. Come on now.
I got you. All right, then. So let's talk now about the state of the Clippers. Also talk about Kawhi and the new look bench, because Adam and I haven't really talked about, our thoughts on this team's bench together. So, this has been a tough road trip for us, Adam. 2-5 so far on it, with those wins coming against Chicago and Utah. 2 games to the Lakers lost in the Luka Doncic era. I mean, those had a little bit of a different sting to it. What was your take on all these games in this road trip?
My take is thanks, Nico. I'm trying to make that the new thanks, Obama, where somebody gets criticized for anything that goes wrong in your life. You just say thanks, Nico. Like, I stubbed my toe, a girl breaks up with me. Thanks, Nico. This is your fault, because that's what it feels like right now, especially after Kyrie Irving now goes down too with the torn ACL. It's unbelievable. I feel terrible for Dallas Mavericks fans, but I also feel terrible for the rest of the league that has to deal with this because of the incompetence of one GM, and especially a team like the Los Angeles Clippers. You put it well yesterday, saying the Lakers getting Luka Doncic, the Clippers' nemesis, is pretty much worst case scenario. And while he hasn't even been great yet, which is scary, he's shooting under 40% from the field. He's shooting under 30% from the outside. He's only averaging like 21 points per game with the Lakers. And they're still this good already, which tells you their margin for error. They didn't have Austin Reeves for the most part this weekend. They didn't have Rui Hachimura at all in either games. The Clippers had their own injuries going on. But this Lakers team, they look to me like they might be on a path to meeting the Boston Celtics in the NBA Finals. And I didn't sign up for that before the season started. So I'm hoping somebody takes them out. But right now, they're running on all cylinders. And the Clippers, I don't even think their defense was the problem so much this past weekend. Their offense was not good enough. The Lakers have been holding teams to 102 or less their last 7 games. Defensively, they've been outstanding. They're first in the league the last 22 games, and the Clippers had a lot of issues against them. But a lot of this can be dumbed down to they didn't have Norman Powell outside the 9 minutes in Game 2 on Sunday, and James Harden went 9 of 36. That's 25% from the field in 2 games. He's really had one good quarter out of his last 12 quarters. James Harden has been struggling mightily. And I think we're both on the same page where there needs to be a shift in philosophy right now, because it looks like Kawhi Leonard is getting back to playing like last year's version. And if that's the case, you have to play through him much more than they have been. And when they have had success, even to start that third quarter in Chicago where James took over and had 20 points, a lot of that was off ball. They were playing through Kawhi to start. Good things were happening. And then you see on Sunday him having 33 on 23 shots. you got to play through Kawhi more. This is the way. For them to reach their maximum ceiling, it has to be having Kawhi Leonard as a number one option. So I'm hoping that's something maybe we learned out of these losses, and we can get back to doing that now. It needs to start tonight against Phoenix, though.
Yeah, those are some really great points. I agree with everything you said. The Norman Powell situation, wanted to ask you about that because now we're getting Kawhi hopefully back into the swing of things. But when you bring Norman Powell back, that's now another adjustment that the team has to make. And even though Kawhi and Norm have played several years together, I feel like it's a different dynamic now that Norm is this 24-point per game scorer. Not that I think it'll be difficult to adjust, but I think there are some games we need to have before a potential play-in situation. What do you think about the injury? Do you think it's very serious? I mean, he posted an Instagram story. It didn't make me feel great. It seemed like he was frustrated. Thoughts? Hamstring?
Yeah, the Boondocks meme with Norm. I'm concerned about it because it's a hammy, because those things can linger. They're tricky. They're difficult to manage. I would guess he's out 2 weeks maybe. And if it's anything less than that, that's a positive because you just never know with a hamstring. He just came back. That's what's so frustrating. They had missed him the first 5 games out of the All-Star break. I think Norm has become essential to this team because he's the perfect fit in so many ways. First of all, they're not a great shooting team. For the first time in the Coach Lue era, they're not a great three-point shooting team, but they have one of the best three-point shooters in the league. He makes them above league average. That's basically where they've been throughout most of the season. But when Norm's off the floor, in games without him, they're shooting over 4% less from beyond the arc. They're 4% less from three without him. Not in takes, but in percentage. And teams recently have been so hot against the Clippers from the outside, they can't match it without having Norman Powell out there. And also, Darian, when it comes to fit, this is somebody that doesn't need the ball in his hands to cook. He's a play finisher. He's a catch and shoot guy. He's a take you off the dribble if you close him out on the three-point line. He's a go right. He's a quick decision maker out there. That's perfect next to Kawhi, next to James Harden. It's some of the stuff that we saw from Paul George last season when he was more of just a finisher playing next to James, playing next to Kawhi. But this is even more comfortable for what Norm loves to do out there. It's a perfect match. So I don't think there would be much of an adjustment. I mean, the numbers say the net rating with those three together plus Zoo and DJ is best in the league over 150 minutes. They haven't gotten to enough minutes with that lineup because Kawhi just came back and now Norm's out. But I think they have real issues right now without Norman Powell. And Bogey is the one guy that in theory should be able to do some of the stuff that Norman Powell was doing. But nobody can replace the production of Norman Powell. And if you didn't think he should have been an all-star before, well, look at their win-loss record without him. Look at the shooting numbers when he's off the floor. He is everything to this team when it comes to offensive efficiency.
Yeah, 16th in the league this season in three-point percentage, the Clippers are. Who do you start in place of Norman Powell until he comes back?
So they started Bogey in the second half after he went out in the first half in the game on Sunday against the Lakers. That makes a lot of sense to me if Bogey's hitting. If he's not, you probably have to start Amir Coffey because at least he's shooting 41% on the field. Now he's got to get shots up. Him taking 0 shots in 22 minutes on Sunday after a bad game Friday against the Lakers, I don't know what's going on there. He's been in a little bit of a funk himself in some ways. Defensively, he's been getting picked on a little bit more. They're hunting him out. And I've always thought he was a solid defender, but recently he hasn't been as good or whatever teams are looking at on tape. They're finding some flaws in him, but they just need shooting out there. Somebody that can knock him down. I wouldn't mind Nico Batum starting and downshifting with Kawhi playing the 3 there because Nico is shooting 38% from 3 on the season. And I agree with you. I don't know if there's a plan for Nico to have, a soft minutes restriction or a silent minutes restriction where they're saying he's older. We're trying to get through the regular season and then maybe the minutes could ramp up in a playoff series because I do think not many have talked about this. If they get the right matchup, I think Nico could start at power forward if they need him to in a playoff series. And then you put Kawhi at the 3, depending on who you're playing, maybe a team like Houston or a team like Memphis. So maybe they've been saving him for that. But right now, the Clippers aren't in a position to be saving guys anymore because very quickly here, you continue this losing streak. You could, it sounds crazy, you could fall out of the play-in. Like, they are in a precipitous position right now where they are sliding down the standings, or a tenuous position where they're already in the play-in currently. And this is a very competitive Western Conference, even with what happened to the Dallas Mavericks earlier, because the Kings haven't gone away and the Golden State Warriors are surging and just jumped them in the standings.
I think I agree with you that we have no room to mess around and the Nico stuff. So you're going with Chris Dunn, Amir Coffey, James Harden, Kawhi, and Zoo?
If DJ's still out, I will have Chris Dunn out there.
Okay.
But if DJ's healthy, I like DJ with the starting group.
Okay, I kind of agree with that as well. You said that lineup, the Norm, Kawhi, Zoo, Harden, DJ lineup, they've played over 150 minutes already?
Yeah, they have. And not with the best version of Kawhi either, not even close. Right. And they have one of the best net ratings of a 5-man unit. I think for a while they had the best net rating of a 5-man unit. Now, it's still not a huge sample size, but there is something to that lineup. It fits. It works.
Absolutely. And you mentioned not the best version of Kawhi or close to it, or even the one we've seen the last couple of games. Coming up, we will be talking about the version of Kawhi that we're starting to see. Is he almost back to full all-NBA level Kawhi Leonard? Clipper Nation, we'll discuss that after this. I got to tell you a little something about DoorDash. NBA fans, get ready. They swoosh, you save. Lately, I have been getting way too much DoorDash. And with Dash Pass, you can get 50% or more off an order, or 50% off an order every time an NBA player scores 50 or more in a game during the 2024-25 season, the next day from noon to midnight. I used it when Steph Curry went for over 50 the other day, and it was great. Just sign up for Dash Pass and be ready to save. When any player scores 50 or more in a game, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order the next day, up to $10 off. Just use promo code NBA50 from noon to midnight after a 50-point game on eligible orders at participating merchants. You must have an active Dash Pass account. Terms apply. Visit DoorDash to learn more. All right, time to talk about Kawhi Leonard, who has scored 20 or more points in 4 of his last 5 games, finally hit 40 minutes in a game against the Lakers in the last one, and finally hit 30-plus points in a game. We talked about James Harden kind of, handing the reins over to Kawhi to a degree. I mean, it's still going to be James Harden with the ball in his hands, of course, the most, but just the gap of Harden having the ball and Kawhi having the ball is a little bit smaller. Do you think Kawhi Leonard, because it was starting to look scary, Adam, that he might not be able to return back to the Kawhi that we have seen be an all-NBA level player as recently as last year? Some forget. Are you feeling better about this guy returning in these next couple of games? Because a couple 20-plus point games, 30-plus point game, that's a good start.
Yeah, I was a little bit concerned after Friday night's game against the Lakers when they initially took off the minutes restriction and he got to 38. And I did predict this coming into the weekend that he would be off the minutes restriction. This would be the time, just based off of history and how long it took him to ramp up before. And it was about that mark in minutes played in games out there. But Friday, he still lacked a lot of pop. I felt like he still wasn't moving quick enough out there, and quite frankly, wasn't getting the ball enough at times either. But he did most of his damage on Sunday when James Harden was off the court to start the second quarter, to start the fourth quarter. He got very comfortable, and you could tell there was a sense of urgency. Kawhi really kicked it into gear. And I've been saying I want to see him step on the gas a little bit. And I saw that in those 2 blow-by watch, as we like to say, on Jackson Hayes and also on Vando going to his right. He looked much better there, much quicker. He also got around LeBron James at one point. Like, this is a guy who showed he still has enough burst left to get downhill and get to the basket when he needs to, when you need a bucket. Like that was the reason they had a chance to come back in that game down by, I think, as many as 21 points. Kawhi looked good. 33 on 23 shots is the stuff I'm looking for. I want to see an efficient 25 every game now, because that's what we were getting for the most part last season when he was that all-world version, when he put up the all-time efficiency record of 57, 51, 92 shooting splits over a 30-game period. That was an all-time run he was on. Now it's different. It's a different team. Paul George was out there, and that helped too. But if he can be 85% of what he was last season during that run, the Clippers can scare you in a 7-game series no matter who they're playing. I truly believe that as long as they're healthy, as long as the defense gets back to playing at a top 3 level, I think they can be okay. But this also is a shift in philosophy, like I said earlier. You got to play through Kawhi Leonard. You have to know the pecking order and know who's leading you. I think this has to be Kawhi's team. You said it too. Look, James Harden has been the MVP. He has been their most essential, best player throughout this entire season. And it sounds harsh to be like, hey, thanks, James. Now it's time for Kawhi to take the baton from you. We appreciate all the good work. But this is actually going to help James too. He's going to have fresher legs. He's going to be more efficient out there. His usage rating was at 20% last year. This year is basically at 30%. He's got the usage rating of a 25-year-old and he's 35. That to me accounts for some of the inefficiency and the turnovers. So I do give him leeway there. But with Kawhi back, you don't have to do it all anymore. This is going to make you a better player. It's going to make life easier on you too. So I think there's a lot of things that can be worked out quickly here, hopefully, if they just realize, okay, this is how we have to play now. We have to make a little bit of a shift here. Go play through Kawhi a little bit more. James more off ball, which got him that 20-point quarter against Chicago, by the way, in the third. A lot of that was catch and shoot stuff. He just has to lean into it and embrace it.
Yeah, I completely agree. As far as the blow-by-watch stuff and Kawhi's, how he's moving out there, does that stretch in like the second half make you feel like, how confident are you in that aspect of his game? Because people have talked about like he's slimmed down and stuff like that. But if he has slimmed down, he's not looking any quicker. How much confidence do you have in his, his athleticism, his burst, that it can even return back to last year's version just based off the small flashes that we've seen?
Well, I felt like in his first 7 games back, when his minutes were between 20 and 24, we actually saw some of that quickness, and he looked really good. I think at first he exceeded everybody's expectations. Then he played 9 games straight in 18 days. They didn't have any back-to-backs in there, so they had a 9 in 18. He played every game, and it looked like he was slowing down, and also it looked like they weren't playing through him as much. Basically, ever since the 27-point game against San Antonio, which I thought was his best game until the game on Sunday, he didn't look as good. He didn't look as quick. But I'm more encouraged after what I saw with him at 40 minutes now, still being able to move as quickly as he did when he was only playing 20 minutes early on when he came back. Because his quickest moves happened in the fourth quarter, really, of that game against the Lakers. Now, it doesn't mean he's always going to have that much pop, that much bounce, that much burst every night, because guys who are 33, even if you don't have knee injuries like he's had, sometimes you just don't have it as much. That does happen. It's more taxing. You're not SGA at 26, 27, where it seems like you're getting the same level of player each and every night. It can vary a little bit more as you get older. But I still feel like, look, if there's a blessing in disguise right now with the injuries going on, it puts more of the onus on Kawhi to have to carry. So we are going to find out where he's at physically and if he can consistently show a little bit more speed and quickness out there. But I was encouraged overall by what we saw on Sunday.
22 games left to get it right for Kawhi. But coming up, we're going to be talking about the new bench for the Clippers, Bogdanovic and Ben Simmons, and the impact they can make going forward, and a quick look at the standings as well. Going to be talking about that coming up. I got to tell you a little something about Open Phone. Running a small business means you're wearing a lot of hats. Your personal phone becomes your business phone, and before you know it, you're juggling customer calls day and night. As your team grows, it becomes impossible to manage everything with just your personal number. That's where Open Phone comes in. It's the #1 business phone system designed to help you keep your work and personal life separate. For just $15 a month, the cost of a few coffees, you get complete transparency and visibility into everything happening with your business phone number. Open Phone works through an app on your phone or computer and integrates with tools like HubSpot and hundreds of others. It also uses AI-powered call transcripts and summaries, so you'll have a rundown of your calls and action items the second you hang up. And if you miss a call, no problem. Automated messages are sent directly to your customer, ensuring you never miss an opportunity to engage. Right now, Open Phone is offering 20% off your first 6 months when you go to openphone.com/lockedonnba. That's OPENPHONE.com/lockedonnba for 20% off 6 months. Openphone.com/lockedonnba. And if you have existing numbers with another service, Open Phone will port them over at no extra charge. All right, back here to close out and talk about the new Clippers bench. Adam, give me your thoughts on Ben Simmons and Bogey. Ben Simmons, of course, missed the last game. Is he playing tonight? Do you know?
He's out. He's out tonight, which is concerning. It was day to day, and now it's a knee issue. It's not his back. It's not being on a back-to-back. It's just a new knee issue that's arising.
Wow. That's a little discouraging. I mean, Bogey should be able to handle the ball a little bit in that second unit. I feel like we've had him a little more off ball than I'd expected, and it hasn't been as good as I thought. Maybe we need him on ball a little bit more in the pick and roll to also relieve Harden. And plus, because Kawhi is not like the best pick and roll guy, he's not bad, obviously, especially when he can come off for shots. But like passing out of the pick and roll, be nice to have Bogdanovic do a little bit of that. But
maybe he'd have a connection with the Ivica Zubac, because it seems like other guys don't have as good of one as you'd expect.
Yeah, we haven't really talked about Zoo much yet, but I want to ask you about the bench first. Bogdanovic, Ben Simmons, how do you feel about their additions to the team so far and what they can do going forward for the playoffs if we make it or play in?
So I'm a big Bogey fan going back to Sacramento, where he used to cook the Lakers. He used to terrorize them. He is somebody that can score at 3 levels at times. Now he's 32. He's getting to the basket less. But the shot's the last thing to go. There's no reason that he should be shooting this poorly this season. He shot 30% from 3 with Atlanta. He's shooting 30% from 3 so far with the Clippers, with a couple of games where the 1 for 12 performance, I mean, that's an all-time bad shooting game from a player in a Clippers uniform. I think that's the franchise worst, and probably the worst shooting game of his career, going back to, I don't know, his high school days or whatever he was doing in the European leagues with Bogey. But I still believe in him. Like, the shot looks good. When you see it go up, you're like, there's a quick release there. It looks like he has his legs, good elevation. And he ended up knocking down a couple, I think, in the fourth quarter after starting very slow against the Lakers on Sunday. But the thing is, they just don't have options without Norman Powell to go anywhere else. They are telling Bogey and encouraging him. The reason he started the second half, the reason he played the entire third quarter and a lot of the fourth quarter, was because they need his shooting desperately. They are at a shooting deficiency out there, and he can provide and fill a real need with this team if he can catch his rhythm. They need him to shoot his way out of this funk. There's no other way. There's no other options. Maybe they go to Patty Mills at some point. He had like one nice stint so far as a Clipper where he knocked out a couple of threes, but Bogey has a long history of shooting 38% from the outside. Last year, he was 5th in 6th Man of the Year voting. Behind who? Norman Powell. He just had one of his best years. He's only played about 30 games this season, so it's not a huge sample size. Last season, Darian, he took, I think, 650 3-pointers. Like, he was at a huge sample. This season, he might be at 200 right now. But with the Clippers, I think he might just need that one game where he comes through late with a big 3, and that could be a turning point for him. But they have to have him out there. And I think part of the reason he's playing more off ball is he's getting really good open looks on catch and shoot threes. I think their logic is, if we have him on ball and he has to create that way, he's going to shoot an even lower percentage. Off ball, there were back-to-back threes he missed in the near side corner in the second half of that game against the Lakers the other night, where he kind of just shook his head and was like, everything's going against me. And recently, when he had that 1 for 12 game, post-game, he said, it's up here. He pointed to his head talking to La Murray post-game. There's nothing physically wrong with him right now. It is all mental. I compared it to Steve Sachs throwing to first base. Like, it is in his head. He's got to find a way to get out of this.
Yeah, I agree with you because you're right. It doesn't look like he has like less elevation or looks super old in the shot. The results just don't look as good. So are we going 9 deep and including Eubanks every game? Because I'm looking at it. It's not just Norman Powell that's out and Ben Simmons, Derek Jones Jr. That's a big loss. And I don't know how long it is, but it's a groin, right? Groins can be tricky as well. And
Yeah.
we don't have him. We don't have him against Phoenix. So are you going 9 deep and including Eubanks in the rotation now going forward? Or are you going Kobe Brown and Jordan Miller 10-man rotation or 8-man rotation? I don't know about 8 though, with the way that some of our players are looking.
I'd go 10 and include Jordan Miller. I just haven't seen enough from Kobe Brown, really, at the G League, in the Summer League, just at the professional level. That gives me a lot of confidence in his game, unfortunately. Jordan Miller definitely has dominated the G League, Summer League, and all these different areas, and he's had his moments in the NBA earlier this season. That first couple of games he was getting before it looked like he lost his confidence in his three-point shot. So I would go 10 with him. I think Eubanks actually played pretty well in the few minutes he's played over the last couple of games. He's been solid. He's been serviceable out there. All I asked for was that he's a little bit better than Mo Bamba. I think he's been that so far in limited time. He is going up against a former team in the Phoenix Suns tonight. Maybe he's got a little something for them, but it just feels like the Clippers are in a desperate situation right now, or it has to be all hands on deck for at least the guys that are available out there.
Yeah. I agree on the Eubanks point. So I predict they'll go 9 deep, but who knows? I don't know if they'll include Jordan Miller or Kobe Brown. My prediction is 9 deep, but we'll see if they go 10. Nico Batum, I hope he gets more time like we discussed earlier. We don't have the time to talk about it, but I think we're both in agreement. We still need more Zoo touches, more Zoo shots, more playing through him. I hope when I have you on again, Adam, like with probably a couple games left in the season before, when we have a clearer picture of where we're going to finish in the standings, that will have progressed in that feeding Zoo department. But who knows? Feels like we've been saying this year after year. My last question.
Let me cook on Big Zoo for a second. Like,
okay, you're the one who said you had to get out of here. I have to end it in the next 7 minutes. But I was going to ask you about the standings as well. But go ahead with Zoo. And then after Zoo, I want you to end it with the standings because I just checked them before this Phoenix game. We're in 7th place now, finally in the play-in, and the Dallas Mavericks heard some terrible news on Tuesday with Kyrie Irving being out. They're in the 10th spot. I think this is going to give the Phoenix Suns a little bit of gas and be like, look, it's been a horrible season, but we're likely going to be able to replace Dallas if we can just get in the play-in. We got Booker and KD. Let's let the chips fall where they may.
No, you're completely right. Phoenix being 3-11 their last 14 games with the worst defense in the league over that time is inexcusable for a team with that much talent. There's no reason for that. They got locker room issues going on. I expect them to give the Clippers, their best shot because they have confidence against the Clippers. They came back down 9 with 3.5 minutes left at game 1 and into a dome. They came back down 21 going 15 of 15 to start the third quarter, the craziest shooting performance I've ever seen, like a week later at Intuit Dome. They see the Clippers and they start to feel better about their shots. But Big Zoo, I've been saying for years, there is an easier path to victory, and it's playing through Big Zoo and getting him more touches. Darn, I'm nuts about this guy. Like, I am his biggest advocate. I called him the long-lost Gasol brother back in 2021. I have tweets. I have receipts about this. There is not an option to not get him at least 12 shots per game with the way this Clippers team is constructed. I can see him getting lost in the shuffle last year. No more. This can't keep happening. Like, it is one of the biggest failures, I think, of the last 5 years, not exploring Zoo as more of an option on the offensive end. Because I don't even think all of a sudden he became this much better player this offseason. He's been talking about having a bag offensively since he was 19 and that him not getting the opportunity to show it off. I'm telling you, he has had this in his repertoire. They just haven't exploited it. Now has to be the time, especially with the injuries going on.
Yeah, completely agree. Now, as far as the standings, though, how do you feel about it? And by the way, the Suns are 4-12 in their last, and since they played us last. They were over 500 by 3 games when they beat the Clippers last in Phoenix. It's crazy what's happened to them in a little over a month.
I think there's a real chance the Clippers fall into the play-in if they don't rally the troops immediately. If Kawhi doesn't say, hey, you guys got us to this point. Now I'm going to do a carry job right now. I'm feeling good. The minutes restriction is off, and I'm going to pull us through. The problem is we don't expect him to play on back-to-backs, and there's still 5 left. So at most, he's playing 17 of their last 22 games, it looks like at the moment. It is going to be difficult. They need some guys to catch fire from the outside, some guys that have been due. They also need the law of averages just to go in their favor right now when it comes to opponent three-point shooting percentage, because the last 15 games, they are getting the worst three-point shooting percentage against them in the league at over 39%. And I've checked the analytics. It's not that they're giving up more open threes by a significant margin. It's just teams hitting them right now. It happens during a long season. At some point, it's got to go back in the Clippers' favor, but they have to figure this out immediately, or else the Golden State Warriors are going to have that 6th spot.
Yep, absolutely. And Adam, it's always a pleasure. Let people know where they can find you, and hopefully we'll reconvene with about 5, 6, 7 games left in the season and see where we're at as we head towards our first potential postseason at Intuit Dome if we're lucky enough to be there for it.
At Follow Adam A, and of course, at Clippers Talk on the YouTube side. Always a pleasure, Darian. You're my guy. You know that.
Yes, sir. Likewise. All right, Clipper Nation. Hopefully we beat the Phoenix Suns. We haven't beaten them once this season, and the next time I'll talk to you guys will be about a W. The age-old proverb continues, go Clip. Go Clippers.